Imagine you're at work doing this challenging task and you make a mistake. You haven't realised it yet, but your senior has picked up on it during their review. And so they go to other people working with you and tell them that you don't know what you're doing. And then those people start telling other people about your shortcomings. After a couple of days, you find out what's been said behind your back. How do you think you'd feel? Suddenly, you might be feeling insecure, deflated, or maybe even depressed. But also, what sort of culture does this create at your work? Your workplace has now become a rumour mill. Everyone stabs everyone else in the back, and no one has the courage to give you the bad news to your face, which in turn makes it unenjoyable to come to work. And the reality is, you're not the only one they're gossiping about. So, how do you fix it? Ray recommends the following principle. Create a culture in which it's okay to make mistakes, but unacceptable not to learn from them. To achieve this, you need to get over who gets the blame and who gets the credit. What truly matters is what is accurate and what is inaccurate. And so as you see people make mistakes around them, be the person who tells someone else they have something stuck in their teeth. Remember never to say something behind someone's back that you wouldn't feel comfortable saying to their face. If we don't talk about people's mistakes to their face, they will continue to make the same mistakes. And last but not least, watch out for people who think it's either embarrassing not to know or are too egotistical to ask. They will be the ones who make the biggest and potentially most catastrophic mistakes because they fail to acknowledge the boundaries of their knowledge. Ultimately, pain plus reflection equals progress. Have you ever been in one of those meetings where everyone keeps dragging the conversation in different directions? Or maybe everyone is talking over each other, and you actually walk out of the meeting feeling like you know less than when you walked in, and everyone thinks everyone else is either an idiot or useless, because they weren't talking about what you were talking about, or they didn't understand what you were talking about and how it was relevant to the topic of conversation. Welcome to an out of sync meeting, which leads to Ray's principle, get and stay in sync. What this involves is being open-minded while remaining assertive at the same time. If you are chairing a meeting, it is your responsibility to manage the conversation. Be sure to watch out for topic slip, but also give people time to talk before being interruptible. Imagine you're curious about what habits you should focus on building to be successful. And so you ask two people. One has just graduated high school, the other is 50 years old and has achieved what you define as success. They give you conflicting habits to focus on. Who do you listen to? The person who's achieved success, right? Because they have achieved what you want to achieve. And this is what Ray calls believability weighted decision making. Before you make a decision, you should bounce ideas off people. And for believable advice, you should go to the person who has actually achieved what they're talking about. But what if they were both 50, successful, and giving conflicting habits? What do you do then? Find the most believable people who disagree with you and try to understand their reasoning. Pay more attention to people's reasoning for a conclusion than their specific conclusion. What you're trying to do is understand how people came by their opinions so that you can use their reasoning again in the future. Let's pretend your organisation is a machine, a locomotive to be exact, and you're in the engine room shoveling coal into the fire, which, as it burns, turns into heat energy, which, in turn, propels the locomotive forward, getting you to your destination faster. When we look at this analogy of an organisation, the locomotive is your organisation, the coal is the problems in your organisation, and the fire is you solving those problems, which propels your organisation forward. Ray's principle is perceive and don't tolerate problems. Watch out for the frog boiling in water syndrome. Just because a problem doesn't present itself suddenly, doesn't mean the problem hasn't presented itself. I work for a company that shares work between offices around the world. Recently, a disruptive technology was introduced to our industry. This technology changed the way we work. Previously, we were able to share work with relative ease. Not a lot of communication was required, so the language barrier between countries was not a problem. And so we had this throw it in the black box attitude. And it worked really well. But this disruptive technology rendered the black box attitude useless. So we had this little nugget of coal we needed to put into the fire. But what was the actual problem? Was it the language barrier? Was it a cultural barrier? Was the problem at our end? Or was the problem at their end? By trying to solve the problem systematically, we listed all the different aspects of the problem in detail, identified the root causes by continually asking why to each answer we gave, created a plan to address the root cause, and executed that plan and transparently tracked its progress. Now, work sharing is working better than it was before the disruptive technology was introduced. The solution? Stop treating people like a black box and start treating them like human beings, and open direct lines of communication between the people working together. And that sounds so simple, and often the best solutions to difficult problems are. The result of this solution was redefining the process surrounding work sharing. And this covers two of Ray's principles, which are diagnose problems and get at their root causes, and design improvements into your machine to get around your problems. So, to recap, create a culture in which it's okay to make mistakes, but unacceptable not to learn from them. Get and stay in sync. Believability weight your decision making. Perceive and don't tolerate problems. Diagnose problems to get at their root causes. And design improvements into your machine to get around your problems. Thanks for watching. To see more independent thoughts, be sure to subscribe. Or check out our Facebook page. If you would like to see the rest of Ray Dalio's principles, be sure to click the link in the description below. Thanks for watching.